This computer. Okay, so now it's being recorded. Sebastian, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Sebastian Gregorchuk. I'm going to be talking about AI use cases in the workplace. It is how I, as a programmer, use AI in different activities I do day to day. A little bit about myself. Let me see. I am an adjunct teacher at CCNY STEM Institute, where I teach Intro to Game Programming. I also handle
Sebastian,
the,
sorry
yes.
to interrupt. Can you do
Yeah.
slideshow?
Well, I'm going to be swapping between different
Oh, okay.
screens.
No,
Yeah,
no
I'm going to
problem.
be bouncing around here and there.
All right, no problem, no problem.
Yeah, I'll get to the things I'll show you guys as we go. But yes, I am a teacher that teaches game programming to middle school and high school students. I do this using Unity and C Sharp. I've been developing games for the past 5 years or so, and I've been programming for around 10 years. So I can see where programming has been going and how it's been working. I would also like to say, since we're like a nice tight group today, if you do have a question, feel free to ask it now, or you can hold it till the very end. Whenever it pops up, Dennis will let me know and we can talk about whatever interests you at the moment. All right. So on the side here, you can see a couple games I've worked on. I've worked in two different game engines. I've worked in Unity, and before then I worked in libgdx. Primarily now I use Unity. Up here, this GIF with the bear is a game I worked on for around 2 years with a company called Mocha Chili. It's a phone-based brawler. In that role, I spend a lot of time uh, programming the backend, cleaning up a lot of the code to separate it for model view and controller setups. And I did additional work like visual effects and UI elements. Now, I use AI pretty much every day for my both jobs, which is the administrative and teaching, and my side programming when I do video games. I use mostly ChatGPT. That is the one I use. I pay for it. I pay the $20 subscription. I think that's perfectly fine for me. And I think that it is best used as a tool. So if you go into your ChatGPT settings, you can change how it should interact with you. I don't think the AI should act as a friend or even anything more familiar than that. I set the setting to be a robot. I want instant answers with no flair. I think that's the best use case of it, at least for me. Um, uh, Most of the things I use it for is grammar and spelling. I am an immigrant. I am well versed in English, as you can hear, but I also have a lot of problems spelling, and I am dyslexic, so the words gets jumbled up. So the AI helps me write a lot of emails and converse with people online. The second thing that I use it most for is code snippets. I think the robot is very, very useful at creating small chunks of code that it takes from documentation from all over the internet and lets me build more complex software, like the games and the program I'm going to show you guys later. And lastly, I think it's very useful for learning. Uh, there's a lot of things I don't know. The robot is a great resource to look for things. Recently, our program got these 3D printers, and I have some familiarity with microcontrollers, but I don't know them perfectly. So I took a bunch of pictures of the 3D printer, and it told me what the parts do, where the wires go, and now I have an idea on how I can like hook it up to work on stuff. So basically, I think of the robot as a Stack Overflow plus back in the day when before AI, when you wanted to figure out a problem that you were stuck on, you would go to Stack Overflow, and that's kind of how I treat the robot. It's a quick solution fixer that I can reference and get some insight about a certain thing.
But
Uh,
Sebastian, we got a question to the chat.
yep.
It says, "Can you get away with not being the best at math for game programming, or am I going to have to brush up on my math skills to succeed in that field?"
Uh, well, it depends on what kind of game you make. Most games don't require very difficult math programming. I think simple algebra and maybe physics is enough. Unity has a very robust physics engine that lets you play around with things, and you can always communicate with the ChatGPT to get some insights on things. But from the games I've built, uh, most of the stuff is very simple physics to like jump and fall, or like I've worked with students who are building these big RPG style games, and it's more a data analyst job where you have to figure out how to talk between all the information. Video games don't actually involve that much high level math, at least on the Unity level. Uh, yeah, I don't think you should worry too much about your math skills. Like, I've taken classes that go all the way up to differential equations and things, and the most I use is probably like algebra for this stuff. Any other questions? No?
You
I
said
can.
2D games like from the SNES era?
Yes, I mostly specialize in 2D games. I've made 3D games, but I just prefer the 2D medium. Here, I can go back a slide. As you can see, most of the games I put together are 2D. There are small instances when I play around 3D. Uh, but even in 3D, I don't expect you to have to deal with too much physics. Like I said, Unity has a robust system that's already there, and you just tweak some numbers to make the game behave the way you want. All right. Uh, like I said, my most common use for AI is grammar and spelling. Uh, I use it in my lesson plans. I use it while email writing. Uh, I have a tendency to think faster than I write or speak. And the AI allows me to catch the couple like words or commas or sentences that I may have missed. That makes my thoughts harder to translate to other people. So I would say this is probably like 60% of my use of AI. And I think it's a very reasonable use of it. Uh, Anyone everywhere in a workplace will use it. Now, jumping to like more fun uses, I've used it very recently. I think it was earlier this year to start playing around with it for game development. Here is a game. I'm gonna drop you guys a link to it. If I can get, here we go. And then go back to Zoom. I'm gonna put it in here. You guys can try out the game if you'd like as I'm speaking. Uh, it's a small tower defense game. I wanted to learn something new that I haven't done before. So I put together this game, and I was learning things about tracking. So I have these guys follow a certain like map uh, that they can follow along. I've It's a 3D game, and I've had to use ray casting, and I had to check if the objects are overlapping, and I had to make sure that I'm not building items between the UI. So if I click on the UI, it's not actually like sending the information over to the game screen. And I think AI was very helpful in this use. I don't have this one loaded up on my computer, but I have the next one ready to go to show you guys. But normally, something like this would probably take me 2 to 3 days to put together because there's a lot of new systems and libraries I'm using. But I was very surprised to put it together in 6 hours. From start to finish, I sat one day and I put together like this whole sequence where you can build these supply units, towers that shoot, have these guys follow along the road. It is important to know that I know how to program in Unity and I know how to use the Unity engine. So this is more of a case of a specialist using AI to enhance themselves. I think that is a very important part of understanding how AI is useful in any job place. It is useful for specialists who already know the subject to get better or is faster. If you were a novice to Unity, you would probably not be able to put this together in 6 hours. It will take you much longer. And because you may not understand the intricacies of Unity or C Sharp, you might not even have anything working because you are missing the fundamentals. So I do think it's very important for you to first learn the basics. You can do it with AI. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. But you need to be able to understand at least programming from the very basis, or whatever software you are using to be able to apply these actions.
And Sebastian, we got a quick question here.
Yep.
How similar to Python is C Sharp?
Very, very different. Well, uh, all programming is similar on the basis. Everything has variables, if statements, for loops, things like that. However, the syntax is wildly different. C Sharp is very structured and everything is enclosed in specific object-oriented structures. Python is much more free flow and lets you put anything anywhere you'd like, and then it puts it all together for you. And down this presentation, I'm actually going to show you how I, as a person who hasn't programmed in Python in like 6 years, talk to AI to make it happen, to make a little software for my administrative tasks. Any other questions?
No, we're good.
Okay. Something I am actively doing right now is I have a little game called Ball Wars. I've made it as like a little simulation game. A friend of mine showed me these like balls fighting on YouTube. They make shorts, and I was like, I can do that. I can show you guys a little clip of it. Oops, oops, nope. And I think that kind of gets the point. Uh, Basically, it's a physics simulation of two balls fighting each other. I have different kinds of characters, and I can show you guys kind of how it works in the background. Put this away. The game works through two screens. I have a central screen here that lets me pick which character I would like to play with. So let's give it a second to look at it. Here I have a choice of a bunch of characters. I'm going to choose like the boxer and archer, let's say. I can choose whichever arena I would like to play them in. I'm going to choose the cross and I click start. I'm going to pause the game here. This takes us to a brand new screen where all the information gets processed, the characters get shown off. Right here, you can see all the things that are actively existing in the game. You can see I have several arenas I can pick out of. I have several prefabbed of players, so we can pick any one of these and spawn them in. When these players get created, you can see that I create some splats. This is when they hit each other. They will leave like a little blood splatter. And I have the boxer, this guy, the green guy, and the archer, the purple one, and they're gonna fight each other. And you can see that the archer also has a bunch of arrows pre-made, so you can use them from the pool. Now, I used AI in this for good many different little tweaks. For example, if you guys can see, there's a background that's kind of scrolling. I used AI to figure out how to do that because I don't really work with textures that overlap and roll around infinitely. When the characters smack into each other, there's like a little slowing down effect, which I looked up with AI because I don't work with the time thing always, the time library. But a lot of it does come from me understanding basics of Unity. So I have colliders on each of these objects that let them interact. They have rigid bodies that give them physics. And you can see this is my scripts. These are my custom scripts that I wrote. So I play around with a lot of numbers. They have health, they have speeds, they have angular speeds. And like I said before, they're not very complicated functions. It's just I usually increase it by a little bit, stop it, make it slower by bit. I also have ultimates that they build up, and can use, for example, this guy becomes small, that guy shoots that big range you guys saw, and all of it works together. I was actually working on one earlier today, so I have a new enemy I can show you guys that I'm putting together. It's like a Morning Star Mace guy. So let's click on him and let's pause it. So you can see he has like a little string, there's a ball on the back, and it hits the guy. I haven't worked with a line renderer before, so I asked the robot for a simple loose string. It gave me this code. I didn't really need to mess around with this code. It works well as intended. Just so you have some ideas of what I'm looking at. Transforms are the positions of the objects. So the end of the stick and the center of this mace. These three variables control how long and how wavy the line should be. This is connecting to the object. Then it checks if everything is connected correctly. And then you have a for loop that creates that little line effect that I want, that makes it wavy. And in this case, perfectly fine. I don't need to adjust anything. I also needed another simple thing. I needed the ball to not fly away fast. So I asked it to give me a capping of the speed. These are like little simple codes that I don't feel like personally writing. It's faster for the robot to put it together than for me. Uh, Here's a problem that someone who is not familiar with Unity might run into. This gives you a rigid body. The robot doesn't know that I'm working in a 2D game, and rigid body here is a 3D element. So it would have to have a suffix rigid body 2D, and then it would work correctly. So it's important to have those fundamentals to work with the robot. Because if you just slap this into the game and made it run, you run into a bunch of errors and nothing would really happen the way you want. And you can see I do all kinds of different little changes. Right now I'm working on the collision, trying to make sure that it's the right one and colliding with the objects I wanted to collide with. But we'll get into a deeper look at how I go through this in the next steps.
And then,
Uh,
Sebastian, before you continue, Lewis said, "Is there a specific game genre that is difficult to code? Are some genres easier or harder than others?"
I think if you want to make a game and you want to start learning, I think platformers are the easiest place to start. They have very little math involved. Um, the class I teach how to put together a 2D platformer. And then by the end of the class, kids get a chance to build whatever they want. On the harder end, I would say anything that's heavy on the data. So like RPGs, um,
MMOs?
MMOs. Oh, MMOs vary. Anything with the internet is a can be rough, but I think they're building out modules that make it easier for you to access the net code. But as a starting person, for you to jump into like a turn-based RPG, I think would be a big jump because it's a lot of data control and reading information and passing it on to things. Any other?
Yeah, Candace says, so is AI used for basic movement like jump and walk, not breakdancing?
So you could, yes, you could use AI to build up to something like breakdancing, but if you ask the robot to give you a script that makes a character breakdance, it's gonna make a bunch of assumptions that you or the game are not ready to utilize. So I think it's better for you to build it in small chunks and then be the mastermind that can stitch it all together. Because the robot tends to be fairly stupid. It's like a computer when you're programming, the computer doesn't know what you want exactly, so you have to be very direct with the code. And you have to do the same thing with the robot. If you ask it for the moon, it's going to try to build you a rocket, and then that rocket's going to explode because it doesn't know how to do that fully.
Great. And then Shiho says, do you ever face issues with ChatGPT becoming really laggy as the chat goes on? When I'm working on a project, the longer I work on it, the laggier it becomes.
Yes, I think I have experienced that. I feel like that is a No, I still do it. Even now with the subscription, it does become laggy. I think it's getting stuck on whatever browser you want, and I think most of the time when I turn it on and off, like the browser itself, it tends to fix itself, or I just start a new chat. Uh, it is a problem with the back end of the AI, but it's nothing that can't be solved fairly easily by just rebooting it. Anything
Awesome.
else?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Uh, So, I talked about how I use it in my gameplay programming and other stuff, but I want to show you how I, as a programmer, can take my knowledge from programming video games to different places. Uh, so, for my administrative tasks, I work at a school, so we need to organize a lot of students, and we work with a lot of spreadsheets. Until this point, I have not played around much with Excel, and Excel uses very similar programming language uh, fundamentals. You have if statements, true and false. You can look up things, but I am very unaware of the syntax. I don't know how to do it, but I know what I want. So you can see here are some examples of how I use it to talk to the robot to find what I want. I'll tell it I want something from sheet RSVP, column D, and I want it to compare to column B, and then return it from RSVP G. And it'll give me the formula that I want. And, because I put it in the spreadsheet, I can confirm what it wants to do. Uh, this is very useful, but similarly, if you try to overextend it, it will just get confused and not know what it wants. So you can even give it code and give it very simple instructions of what you want to do. So like you can see the base structure I have over here, and then I have two actions I want. I wanted to say accepted or withdrawn if it contains a number 2 or 3, and you can see it put it on the top here. So I think this is a very useful way of using AI. It made my life a lot easier working with spreadsheets, but there's even better ways to do this. Oh, okay, I forgot to put this one in here. 2 years ago, when ChatGPT was first starting, I had someone approach me to put together a website. I have not, I've never built a website before. I have never used HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. But with it all, I was able to put this like little practice website together. And I'll show you a bit how I went about that. I'll send you guys the website if you want to flip around through it. It's kind of what it looks like. Actually, we can look at it together. I had to do a lot of different things. I had to color them based on if they're on sale. You can see these ones don't have the little ring around them. If you click on them, I think they do send you. Yep, I built like a little data sheet that read where the Steam location is, and I can send you to the Steam website. I can read all their numbers. I had to create this little like animation on here. It was a whole process that took probably like a week to put together because I was unfamiliar with the source. Uh, and unfortunately, it never went anywhere. The person I was working with got someone else to work on it a couple times later, and I think they do have a functioning website. But this was a really enlightening look into what AI could be a few years ago, where someone like me who's never worked with HTML and websites could put something like this together in a week or so. Uh, but my main example for today is this thing I put together like 2, 3 weeks ago. It was a Python file splitter. And I'm gonna go through every single step of the process with you guys and how I went about it. And I'll show you that if you know how to program, you can use your basic fundamentals to talk to the robot and it can translate it. I think the most important part to remember with the AI is that most of them are just language models, and programming, just like any other language, is a language. If you know the words, it can translate them, and you can use them as long as you understand what they're saying too. So let's put the scenario on the table. I have uh, we work with students and we needed to get all of their transcripts. We were provided a big PDF file that had 350 students inside of it. Now, it would take a really long time for you to do this by hand, separate each PDF file, name it after the student, put it in its individual folder. It's a lot of work. But in around 3 hours or so, I put together a software that did all those tasks and freed me up to do other things. If you'd like to see my process, you can flip through this link of ChatGPT. Where am I? Chat. Oop. So you can follow along there, but I'm gonna have you a little snippets on my screen and explain you how I went about this. So first things first, it's been a couple years since I haven't worked in Python, and this is a brand new computer that has never touched Python, so I had to start with installing it. My first ask was to set up the Python on Windows. I followed all these instructions to install the basic Python. I immediately ran into an issue. Pip was not being recognized in my command line, and I asked for it to help me resolve the problem. You can see this is basically giving me the documentation answers on how to fix it. I was able to fix that thanks to the prompt here. Next, I need to have a place to program in. I have to use Visual Studio or Writer to program in C#. And you can see that I asked it what is the best thing to program Python in. It gave me PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, and Thonny. I don't really like Visual Studio Code. I think it works worse than Visual Studio itself. So I asked if I can use Visual Studio. It said yes. I went into the installer. I got the correct module, the Python development module, and now I could open up Visual Studio and program in Python, just like as if I was going to do it in C#. Now I needed to give the program the idea of what I wanted to do. So I needed to look inside the PDF file, and it has this field called name/ID. And then I want to capture these three variables, the first name, last name, and the ID. So I gave that to the robot, and it hit me with this. Now this is a lot. This is much longer than all the other programs that I've showed you. Those were maybe like 10, 20 lines each. This is like 40, 60. And I don't know Python. This could be hieroglyphics for all I know. So now is the step of learning. I go through each section. I can kind of figure out what the sections are. For example, these are like the libraries. This is some kind of function I'm starting. I'm assigning something to a variable, but like I don't know what it's actually doing. It's a lot of unfamiliar syntax. Even though I could probably use it, I don't know what it's doing, and I need to learn. So first thing I did was paste all of these things into ChatGPT section by section, and it would tell me, and then I go section by section and I comment it to figure out what it's saying. So these are the libraries. You can see this library connects the pathing. This one lets me read and write in the PDF folder file. This cleans up the strings. Basically, you can see a bit more understandably what I was doing and what the robot was trying to do. Now, like I said, my goal is to get these names, get this information, create a new PDF with that name alone, and then put it in a folder. So I got to start looking for the bit I want. So right here, you can see I'm going through the sections. First line, this is what it does. It's like this one adds a prefix in my command line. So it would look something like this. Sorry, give me a second to get a drink. A lot of the top section of the code right here is controlling how I'm speaking to the command line and what it should be looking for and what it should be printing out afterwards. I don't need a lot of this. The prefix, the suffix, is not very important to me, so I can learn what it is, and I can start chopping them out of the code and replacing them with what I want. So for example, you can see like this bit of code shrunk to something like this. And this section of code, this is kind of where I'm reading the PDF file, and it was just taking up one section. Now I take three sections and it breaks it down to like first name, last name, and ID. So I can actually read for the information I want. So I'm learning how the Python works, and I'm working with the robot to understand it. I make all the changes as I'm learning, but to make sure that everything works, I toss the whole code back to ChatGPT, check if it's, if I put everything correctly. I may have messed up the syntax. I don't know. It's unfamiliar to me. And it gives me a couple like suggestions. Question?
Yeah, I heard Claude is one of the better chatbots for coding. Is that really true?
I couldn't tell you. I've mostly stuck to ChatGPT. Um, I think it's possible, but I use ChatGPT on a daily basis, and it's kind of a market share thing. They showed up first, and they kind of got me. And since they work well enough for me, I don't really need to look for a different place. You can think of it how Microsoft came to power. Before Microsoft was the juggernaut it is today, it kind of gave itself out for free for multiple years. And then once it had the full market share, then it rose prices and no one could really compete with them. So ChatGPT kind of got me in that space. I'm open to trying different AIs, but since I do use this for things uh, outside of programming as well as programming, I don't see a reason to switch over at the moment. All right.
Yeah, yeah, no more questions.
Okay, sweet. Uh, so yeah, I do a little sanity check in my programming since I may have messed up some syntax here. I toss it back in. You can see that it's not do. I didn't do some things I asked for it to do. So we update it, we make a couple tweaks, and then I don't know how to run this. In Unity, if I want to check my game, I have this little plus play button and it compiles the game and runs it for me. I don't know how to do that in Python, so I ask it to teach me how to do that. It tells me to go inside the folder where I put the script. It tells me how to use the builder to make it, and I have the build. Now, again, I don't know how to start it, so I ask it to show me the command lines that I would need to use to make the program run. And I figure it out. I test it. It does what I am asking it to do. Everything is working. The program has split up all these PDF files into 350 separate ones. Maybe there's a problem. I find a couple of them have an issue. Some students have a dash in their name, or they have a what is it? Like a single quotation mark dividing the name. So we go back to our code. I update it for those cases, and then I run it again and make sure it works. Now, that would be good for like a programmer for me, but this is supposed to be a tool that is used for by an everyday person. So we need to make some changes so that my coworker who is not a programmer can also use this tool. So I go back to the robot, I ask it for a cheap GUI. Basically, this new text box allows me to have a file explorer, and then I select the item through the file explorer instead of having to type it in command line. Beforehand, I have to be in the correct folder. I have to tell it very directly that I want to use this file, and that's a lot of technicality that most people will not be able to do. So the file explorer pops up, I click on it, it executes, but there's still, it's not great. It happens, but there's no feedback to the player. You don't know if it happened. The file explorer disappeared, and maybe it happened. You don't know. There's not. You need to add a couple extra steps. So I talk to the robot. We expand on it. I ask it to help me generate a pop-up screen that shows a percentage bar as well as the name and ID that it's currently working on. We work on this a couple times. I go back and forth making the iterations like I did before. And then I run into a new issue. Because the GUI is using a new system, it has a library, I run into this weird encoding issue. Visual Studio is set up in some weird manner, and it doesn't want to compile the code anymore. Uh, it tells me to like click on this thing. I'm looking at it. Visual Studio is not showing it. It just doesn't exist. Thankfully, ChatGPT and other AI now have like a section where you can take screenshots and upload them, so you can be even more direct with the robot. It's like, I'm looking, the thing you're showing me is not there. What do I do? And you can see it showed me how to go inside the settings to solve this issue. This could have been the end of the project. I would have been stuck back here before the robot, because maybe there is no Stack Overflow that can show me how to fix this issue. This is a very niche uh, problem that not a lot of people may have run into. Maybe they did, but it would definitely add a lot of like just online searching for it to be resolved. So I can show you like the end results of all of it. Uh, I have my program. I double click on it. It gives me a Windows Explorer pop-up where I can select the file from anywhere on my computer. Now, the user will have a pop-up showing them the progress of the work. And once the work is done, you will get a little OK pop-up, just showing that everything went well. And you can go to the folder and check out where it is. Uh, Here's an example of what it would look like. It creates a folder called transcripts. It has a bunch of students' names into it. And inside it, it's going to have first name underscore last name underscore ID. And you can see a little preview of it. Now, this will actually have the real names, but just for the protection of the kids, I faked it out. But yeah, this thing took me around 3 hours to do. I can tell you that before AI, it will probably take me 3 hours to install Python, set up the IDE, and even start working on the project. This probably would have taken me over a week to do by myself. But given the correct questions and my fundamental knowledge of programming, I was able to take all that information and use my specialization to increase my output into a 3 hour project that is useful for me and for anyone else that is a non-programmer. Um, so I'm kind of done now. We're gonna open it up to general Q&A. And if you want to reach out or ask me any questions, here's my LinkedIn and here's my website if you want to see what I'm up to.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
thank you so much, Sebastian, for taking your time to do this. Yeah, if you have any questions, just put into the chat. If you want to come on mute, come off mute, that's fine too. Um, right now we got Zoran. Zoran says, "Did you make it an executable, or did you save it as a .py and have to start it from the CLI every time?"
So I was able to make it into an executable. Right. So right here, I created a executable by doing this. This line right here creates the executable, and then I can just run it using, actually, yeah. And then I can use this function right here to execute the actual program, the exe.
Awesome. All right. So does anybody else have any more questions? In the meantime, as they're thinking about questions to ask, Sebastian, my number one question to you is, do you think AI is coming for our jobs? I think that's a lot of people are talking about, but what do you think about that?
I don't think AI is coming for your jobs. I think it's more greedy managers coming for your jobs. Because, like I said, this work could be done by an AI, but there's a lot of like problems along the way, and it only happened because I had the fundamental know-how on how to interact with the code and change it. Uh, and it increased my productivity of it. But if you don't have that fundamental knowledge, you will not be able to use AI effectively. And at least programmer wise, your job is not being replaced. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah.
And then Candace West says, people are mistaking AI with the Industrial Revolution, machinery replacing jobs.
I mean, AI is having a significant impact on the jobs. Like I said, I don't think AI is in a place where it can just wholesale take out your job. But people are treating it like it can. It is going to backfire. You've seen it backfire in multiple companies where they fire a bunch of people and then they have to bring them all back. because they found out that those people were essential, and even though the AI is good at its bit, it's not uh, able to replace those people's internal knowledge of how it works.
Exactly. And now Lewis says, what would be a good resource if I want to get familiar with game development, any specific book or platform?
If you want to use just basic Unity stuff, you can look up my YouTube channel. I think it's posted in my website. I have a whole series where you build a 2D platforming game. But if you want to do a 3D game, 24 hours Unity cookbook, I think it is called. Yes, this one. I think this is a really good one. It doesn't get too far into like programming. It's mostly about using Unity and then a little bit of programming. I use this my first semester teaching, my first few semesters teaching before I developed my own curriculum. So I think this is a really good resource.
And then Carlene says, the people who know AI are coming for your jobs. Is that safe to say?
No AI archive. I mean, I think the wording is a bit confusing, but uh, AI is definitely having a strong impact on the job market. Uh, but like I said, I don't think it can fulfill all the roles the way the managers think they will. Uh, and there will be an equilibrium balance. There will be a lot of jobs lost. They are being lost. But I think we will find that the human part of every job is very necessary as these companies kind of starts to stall out because the AI is sending spaghetti code into their programs that can't sustain themselves. I think the biggest thing people misunderstood about AI is that it can just do things, but the robot really doesn't know, it doesn't have context awareness. So it can make little changes to your code, but over time, it's just going to keep making little changes without considering other aspects of your program. And those aspects will start colliding with each other and eating itself apart. Um, and that's only going to show up in like a year or two once these companies have gone through that cycle of like having their code fully completely trashed. I think I've seen a lot of people joke around that soon there will be new AI cookbooks on how to fix your outdated code that the AI kind of like threw at you, and now you have to parse it and fix it.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah, so any more last minute questions before we hop off? I would just like to say thank you so much, Sebastian, for your time again. As everyone here in the call can see, if you have an idea, if you have a problem, you can definitely use ChatGPT to help you with that. If you just go through the problem solving steps that Sebastian outlined from step 1 to step 12. Also, this is being recorded. Hopefully, it should be shared soon. And yeah, any more last minute question? All right, Carlene says thank you, Sebastian. This was great. Zoran says thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Sebastian. Lewis says thank you, Sebastian. Vincent says thank you. All right, awesome. And then before we hop off, the last thing I need to do for you guys is if you're interested in joining the AI club, as I said before, we're here trying to learn AI before. Well, I mean, as Sebastian said, it's like I don't know. You just learn AI. That's my main message here. So I'm gonna send the WhatsApp chat a link into the chat, and if you guys want to join us, come join. I think the next meeting we're gonna have is gonna be me talking about Suno or having a guest speaker because I'm be making music with AI. Does that make me an AI artist, Sebastian? No, it does not.
No.
But I can make some music now. But anyway, yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Thank you again, Sebastian, and I hope you have a nice night. Our next meeting is next month, so look out for that. And yeah, have a great day. Bye bye, everybody. See you later.
Pleasure. Have a good day.